I've been all around the world trying to find something new. Lord knows that something was you. 'Cause I found in myself the one thing that's true.
Now that we're at the end of the line, post game on all 3 stories plus extra. Now I need to begin looking into all the different facets in order to begin a tactical analysis of this next boss, which is the penultimate ultra boss fight of Birth by Sleep, and this is going to be the mysterious figure of the Land of Departure. I'm trying to see what notes I can find about this entity now, but it varies. Like, there's a number of different perspectives on it based off of how old this game is and all the different types of success rates that different people have had. And so it gives me somewhat of an idea as to how to set up my command grid more appropriately in order to have a better chance of endured survival as the match continues. And granted, while the unknown does not have a lot of health, he does still have a lot of grit, as it's a continually unrelenting type of boss fight. And it gets annoying very quickly, and the more quickly you are annoyed, the more likely you are to lose even faster than the rate you're already going to be fighting the match at. So while very few pros exist, there's even more cons that are very eminent. This mysterious figure's life bar vanishes whenever it goes invisible. Look for the reappearance the moment when it comes back. Look on to and continue slide, rolling, dashing, cartwheeling around the battlefield to get some of the hits in while he's going around. This is doable. And since it's not meant to be Birth by Sleep, this best about the fight against the unknown may take a while. It's about patience and perseverance, both of which is possible. This entity I have beaten before on PlayStation Portable, but the results may vary this time around. Ooh! Things about Aladdin you can only notice as an adult. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Yes, let's take a look into this real quick. So, while I'm here looking at the information, let me go over a quick thing about the last time I fought the unknown, or the mysterious figure at the Land of Departure. Once upon a time, about 6-7 years ago, I want to say, when I was writing my story, I came across this entity originally after I defeated Vanitas Remnant the first time. This was on the 2010 edition of Birth by Sleep, which was on the PlayStation Portable at that time. And there were very few videos or very few things made about the extra features that were given in that game, because it was PlayStation Portable. Anything else that was relevant was most likely going to be on the final mix, which was in Japan release only at that time. The format did not come to PlayStation 3 in America. It was only in PlayStation 2 in Japan. But anyway, the point I was getting at is that in my initial stories when I was writing this out, I came across this entity in combat after delving in most of my story and my time into playing just Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep on the PSP when I was moving around from place to place in order to deal with family at the time. Then the opportunity for fighting this guy came up. I devoted a vast amount of time into beating this guy. This one entity I devoted about 2 to 3 months straight non-stop for about 7 to 8 hours at a time each day in order to just systematically keep analyzing this opponent, bringing me closer and closer to beating him. I was frustrated at one point to where I even avowed to discontinue following my dream and wanting to be the best gamer in the state of Maryland in order to devote all of my time, patience, everything to toppling this one entity, because out of so many other secreted bosses in the video games that I played over the years, this is one that has considerably pissed me off to the point of pissing me off, because it's unnecessarily difficult to defeat this one entity. I've had my share of boss fights in video games that do make me want to just put the controller down and walk away, like Gabriel Celeste, or Sirius the Black Hole King, or Yaezma the Legend from Final Fantasy, or even Vercingetorix the Doom Herald, also from Final Fantasy. All of those were ultra bosses that were the penultimate of hell that you can willingly walk into. And this just took the cake by far. And while yes, I did succeed in successfully defeating the unknown eventually, which was like the day after New Year's going into 2012, I believe. It was very little revenue that actually came back to me about that, because I had intended to make a video about such a really difficult accomplishment in my own right, but I was too late in trying to make anything out of it, and other people took the credit long before I did. And so, several years later, here we are, knocking at my doorstep again as another opportunity and making history and doing it the right way, rather than feeling like I need to sacrifice everything that I love just because of one thing that seems to keep turning love into hate, or love into lust. Anyway, to the analysis. And I've seemed to come across the correct panel that I want to look at here. Judging from the last couple times I managed to go at him, this seems about right, because physical movement does seem to do well against him, and elemental damage to some extent does well against him. All the other side options and venues for magic are a waste, as they do nothing at all. They are a literal waste. So I need to outload my loadouts to be more along those lines, so maybe Surges would be along the best outline. That way it combines physical and elemental based attacks. The Ethereal Blade combos look familiar. The dash attack I'm familiar with. That X wave, I called it the X attack, but yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Spear orbs when you summon all that stuff. The sonic attack. Vanish cannot be locked onto, but he gives away his location through the Taint Shimmer as well as through the Ethereal Blades that are going to be directly right there. The Raging Storm is when he summons the vortexes around him and hovers all the way around the battlefield with the flames. Raging Storm with some of his other abilities, usually with the long combo, so it's going to be a continual duck and dodge for the most part of what I'm reading here. The summons copies of himself to overwhelm the player. Each of them shares abilities including Vanish, and there's no set pattern. However, the copies can be easily destroyed with a clean hit. So while they do astronomical damage in their own right, you can just reach out and poke them and they should die. Supposedly. But I'm probably going to test that theory knowing me. Meteor and Mega Flare I am familiar with, because those encompass a majority of the field that you can easily get out of the way of, and then he takes advantage of it by going into Vanish. Ah yes, Doom. It's where his thing turns into another pendulum thing and it starts. Second countdown, it's game over if the countdown reaches 0. Rapidly press X to break free, so button mashing. The Collision Magnet is when he laps into the air and casts out a lasso of energy, the pendulum trick that I thought it was years ago, and pulls him towards him for a quick slash. Really? In the final mix version of the game, it is possible to air slide out of the whip. So even though he's got it in mid-whip, you can actually air slide out of it before he does damage. That is something that definitely was not in the American version. Man, the Japanese version made it so easy then. Then the Renewal Barrier. If the protagonist attacks him without an opening, or attacks constantly with a long combo, he'll parry the player's attacks and recover a bit of health in the process. And then the time reversal is the trick I hated the most, because he does it at really stupid times, especially when you're on a roll trying to beat him. At any random moment, when the protagonist deals damage to him, he could potentially stop and reverse time to the precise moment before he is hit, recovering some of his health in the process. As soon as time is restored, he uses one of his other attacks before the protagonist can react. It's a shitty play. So what's my overall thing here? It's a powerful boss fight and is one of the strongest enemies in the game. His attacks are varied and hard to predict, similar to those of Lingering Will. I know that battle too well. He's immune to all status elements, but he has a great deal of HP as well. The boss is very swift and can inflict massive damage to the player, quickly knocking them out unless they have second chance or once more equipped. Thank God I grinded for that. He's adept in defense. He can use renewal barrier and attack too much if sometimes rewards taking 2 damage, allowing him to recover. Rewinds time to recover some of his lost HP. As Xehanort's HP dwindles, he goes further on the offensive. Man, it's going to be a long, enduring battle for the most part of it, unless I already know what I'm doing the second I go into it. Xehanort will attack whenever an opening to do so presents itself, but it is easily to heal safely by simply dashing far away from him first with either the slide step, the dodge roll, and all that stuff. Okay, so the safest and simplest way to defeat young Xehanort or the Unknown is to simply use a deck of 2 to 4 cure type commands and until the rest with the fire and thunder surges. Thunder Surge is generally better because it grants access to the Thunderbolt command style and Thunderbolt's finisher, which is an area effect. Okay, splash damage area effect, and it's effective in striking it more than Firestorms. A good way to arrange the command deck is to have Thunder Surge Cure, Thunder Surge Cure, and stacks like that. So attack, heal, attack, heal, attack, heal. That way it'll be a continual revenue of something coming back to you. Also doable. Thunder Surge, like his collision magnet, the protagonist is hit, they should immediately start dashing away. Using Cure, even after setting up a working deck and overall strategy, victory against Xehanort relies primarily on luck due to his penchant for using unavoidable insta-death combos. In the final mixed versions, the difficulty of the boss fight is slightly toned down. The protagonist can now escape after being ensnared by the collision magnet attack by air sliding before the second attack, therefore avoiding the lethal combo. That was originally inescapable in the original version of the United States release. Ain't this something? And Thunder Style looks like it's even more useful as it can lead into the rhythm mixer, which makes it easier to land combos. This gives me a couple ideas to work with in order to take him out. Or if not take him out, at least deal some damage on him in consistent nature.